I was brushing stain onto the new cedar fence, admiring the way its crisp golden lines sliced cleanly against the vibrant green slope behind our house, when I saw her. Pamela Strad, now going by the slightly more regal-sounding Marjorie Tate, was standing just beyond the property line, repeatedly stabbing a fence post with what looked suspiciously like a kitchen knife. Her mouth moved with manic intensity as she screamed something about how I'd violated the Geneva Convention of Property Lines. And that's when I knew, without a doubt, that she had finally lost it. It had been a perfect Saturday morning. The sky was a cloudless blue, birds chirped like it was scripted, and the faint smell of burgers sizzling on Dad's backyard grill hung in the air like a promise. I was halfway through my staining job, admiring how months of planning and building had paid off in the form of this sleek, sturdy fence. That is, until Marjorie turned what should have been a peaceful day into a front-yard performance of legal delusion and unhinged outrage. Now, for context, that sloped area behind the fence? That was ours, without question, verified by surveys, backed by county maps, and confirmed by plain old common sense. But common sense wasn't exactly Marjorie's strong suit. Marjorie Tate was that one neighbor everyone tries to avoid. She printed fake parking tickets and slapped them on windshields of visiting friends. She patrolled the sidewalk in reflective sunglasses, flanked by her two yappy Pomeranians like some sort of deranged security detail. She flagged down delivery drivers and lectured them about parallel parking technique. No one had ever seen her go to work, but she carried a clipboard with the authority of someone who thought she was elected HOA president of the universe. This time, her outrage centered on what she claimed was a fence encroachment, specifically 6.5 inches onto her property. She stomped over with a tape measure, escalated quickly to shouting, and eventually pulled out a laminated, homemade citizen complaint form that she waved around like a warrant. Trying to defuse the situation with a little humor, I offered her a burger. "It's got cheddar," I said, hoping maybe some backyard goodwill might help. She jabbed her knife in my direction and hissed, "You'll hear from the authorities." To most, that would sound like an empty threat, but not when it came from Marjorie Tate. 20 minutes later, as Dad and I leaned back in lawn chairs sipping cold beers and basting ribs, the crunch of gravel broke our calm. A sheriff's cruiser rolled into the driveway. Out stepped Deputy Luis Lopez, sunglasses perched atop his head, rubbing the back of his neck like a man who already regretted getting out of bed. Behind him, Marjorie trailed like a courtroom specter, binder in hand, muttering something that sounded rehearsed. "Afternoon, folks," Lopez greeted us with a tight nod. "Got a call about a property dispute." Marjorie practically pounced. "Yes, officer. Thank you for coming. I'm glad you're here. He's built a fence on my land and threatened me with a weapon." Dad choked on his beer. I looked over at him and then back to Lopez. There were no threats. Just a fence. Fully on our side. "I measured it," she snapped. 6 inches past the legal boundary. "I have documentation." Lopez sighed. "You got a recent survey, sir?" I nodded and retrieved a county-sealed copy from the garage, dated just last year. Lopez studied it silently. Marjorie folded her arms, nostrils flaring. "That's wrong. Probably paid off. I want it remeasured." "Immediately." "Ma'am," Lopez said patiently, "this is an official survey filed with the registrar. Unless you've got evidence of fraud, it stands." "Oh, I do," she declared. "He's using illegal tools. That power drill, it made aggressive noises." I felt unsafe. Lopez blinked slowly. "Ma'am, power tool noise during permitted construction hours isn't illegal." At that moment, Marjorie stepped across the invisible line into our yard, still ranting. She didn't seem to realize Lopez's eyes had locked on her every move. "You realize you just walked onto his property without permission?" he asked. She froze mid-step. "Excuse me. Based on this survey," Lopez pointed with his pen, "that's his land. You're trespassing." Her jaw opened, closed, then opened again. "You're joking. I'm reporting a crime." Lopez sighed again and radioed in for a secondary verification. That's when my sister Clara stepped out onto the porch, holding up her phone with a wicked grin. "Ben, check this out." She'd found Marjorie's Facebook group, Tate Street Beautification and Order Committee. Not an official HOA, just a band of about 18 busybodies who drank wine and made Google Maps diagrams with red arrows. At the top of the group's feed, a post titled "Fence Boy Thinks He's Clever." Wait till Saturday, sheriff's coming. Boom. The image was a crudely edited satellite view, complete with hand-drawn red lines and a self-dubbed corrected survey. Lopez looked at it and muttered, "Lord, give me strength." Marjorie shrieked, "Harassment. He's spying on my private page." Clara sipped lemonade and deadpanned, "You tagged the street. It's public." Lopez excused himself to call his supervisor. Things were spiraling. The radio crackled, confirming, "Fence is 3 inches inside the rightful line. No violation." Marjorie's eyes bulged. She sputtered something about corruption and began backing away toward her house. "Ma'am," Lopez called after her, "we'll need you to stick around for trespassing questions." She stiffened mid-lawn like a frozen lawn ornament. The next morning was eerily quiet. No barking dogs. No yoga on the porch. No screeching accusations of fertilizer code violations. Too quiet. By noon, Clara burst into the kitchen laughing. "You've got to see this." Marjorie had posted a new tirade. Sheriff Carter is pals with Finceboy's dad. It was never about property lines. It was about protecting their own. "I'll win. You'll see." Attached was a PDF, a citizen review request to the county, challenging the legitimacy of our surveyor's license. I decided to go down to the county records office myself. The building smelled like old paper and slow computers. A kind clerk pulled up the plats. Everything about our fence checked out. But that wasn't the kicker. Marjorie's backyard shed? 2 feet over the property line, onto our land. I laughed. The clerk shrugged. "Happens more than you'd think." Outside, an older man named Mr. Ortiz, formerly Mr. Delgado, recognized my address. "Marjorie?" he asked. "Yep. 5 years ago, she claimed my hedges blocked street spirit. Tried to move my mailbox with a shovel. I brought the documents home. Dad looked them over and whistled. Her shed's trespassing. That's gonna sting." Later that afternoon, Sheriff Carter arrived. Mirrored sunglasses, chewing gum, like he stepped out of a detective novel. "Mind if I come in?" he asked. He declined the lemonade, but got straight to it. "Marjorie filed 3 complaints this week. Against you, your father, and the county land office. She claims there's a conspiracy to steal her land." Dad burst into laughter. Carter smirked and pulled out satellite photos. "Here's the truth. Her shed's trespassing. Technically criminal. We're sending a surveyor out again tomorrow to document it. If it holds, she's getting cited." Morning came with the rumble of a county survey truck and a sheriff cruiser. Surveyor Mr. Ellison, wide-brim hat, steel-toed boots, started driving neon stakes into the earth. "Original pin from 1986, he said, tapping one. "Fence is dead on. Shed is over." That's when Marjorie stormed out in a bathrobe. "I didn't approve this harassment." Carter stood his ground. "You don't approve county surveys. They're public record." She shouted about criminals setting the pins and even blamed plate tectonics for shifting land. Ellison chuckled. "That's a first." She tried to obstruct him with a tape measure and rapid-fire muttered equations. "Third strike." Carter stepped forward. "Ma'am, obstruct this process again, and I'll have to cite you." She retreated, mock surrender, but not for long. She set up a folding table and lawn chairs on the sidewalk, complete with a sign that read "Defend Property Rights." Passers-by ignored her. Then she stormed into my yard, pointed at a stake, and yelled, "Fraudulent." He moved it. Lopez, driving by, braked and stepped out. I saw him digging. I raised both hands. Surveillance footage says otherwise. She tripped over the flower bed and landed flat in my daisies. He set traps. It's a war zone. Carter, done with the nonsense, calmly said, "That's your 3rd trespass. Keep it up and it won't stop at citations." Later that week, I reviewed my wildlife trail camera footage and found the gem, a night shot of Marjorie, hoodie up, digging around a pin at 6 a.m. I emailed it to Carter. Next day, he showed up with a clipboard and tablet. "She's cooked. This is more than trespassing. That's tampering with property markers." He served her court papers right then and there. Marjorie went silent, pale. 2 days later, a moving truck pulled into her driveway. She didn't say goodbye, just glared at the fence, muttered something, and drove off in her dusty SUV. Gone. The court date was swift. Judge Graves didn't need long. Surveys, maps, timestamps, wildlife cam footage, it crushed her. She was fined for trespassing, ordered to pay our legal fees, and given 10 days to remove the shed, garden lights, and lawn decorations trespassing on our property. An investigation into her fake beautification committee also began. Turns out, she'd been collecting fake dues. Peace returned to the neighborhood. People started talking again. Some even apologized for staying silent. We hosted a barbecue that weekend. Carter came by, bringing a six-pack and laughing, "You ought to install a plaque on that fence." We did. I mounted a small sign by the pin that read, "Property of the unbothered. Trespassers, meet the sheriff." And with that, Marjorie Tate faded into a cautionary tale. A monument to what happens when petty tyranny meets its match, one perfectly measured inch at a time.